Our next question comes from Mr. X. Mr. X says, I recently joined a kickboxing gym, and I want to include Taekwondo into my fighting style. The main trainers dislike when I use hook kicks and wheel kicks and tornado kicks because they don't like the idea of turning my back against the opponent. Well, spinning kicks are not turning your back to your opponent. They're not. And if you are, you're doing them wrong. But on with the question. The trainers hosting the classes mostly emphasize on Western boxing. I include spin kicks when I spar or practice when they aren't looking. Thoughts on turning your back to strike to your opponent? Well, don't turn your back. Think about a spinning kick that lands most of the time, with a few exceptions. Most of the time, a spinning kick that lands, when it lands, the spin stops. And there's no more spin. It's a turn over the shoulder, boom. Happens that fast. What are you afraid of when you say, don't turn your back? Well, in the case of jiu-jitsu and submission grappling, you don't want to expose your back to your opponent for any length of time that would allow them within close proximity of your body to get back mount and a rear naked choke or some strangulation or attack from the back like that. In an MMA fight, same thing. You don't want somebody within close proximity to be able to get behind you in a position where you were not able to face them and improve your position. As far as striking, though, striking is a matter of very, very short beats of time. And I say beats of time instead of a specific number of milliseconds or whatever because it's highly variable. But striking is a game of beats of time. And imagine you're in kicking distance, you're in head kick distance. You set up your head kick. Maybe you do a jab up high and you slip to your left as you throw a low right body shot. And as you're slipping to the right, the head kick comes up into his blind spot as he's paying attention to that low right body shot. And okay, if he is somehow savvy to your setup and he moves out of the way, that kick follows through and it turns into a spin. That's what roundhouse kicks do. If you miss, you'll rotate. Now you can throw a roundhouse kick 180 degrees, plant your foot, and then pivot back, or plant the foot, throw a side kick, or plant the foot and then throw a back kick with the opposite foot. But none of these are really turning the back. It's not like baiting somebody into donkey guard by literally turning your back to them, sticking your butt out toward their face, hands down on the floor, marching toward them backwards, doing a backwards bear crawl, and then jumping up onto their body like that. I do that sometimes with my students in sparring, and they look at me like I'm a crazy person, and then they are ever so puzzled when they find themselves on the floor with me on top of them, like, what happened? He's breaking all the rules, man. Well, there's the rules, and then there's the rules, like I say. But in this case, there's the rules, and then there's the rules, and then there's the rules, which we break. But we're not going to break them until we understand them. So we have to understand, why is it important to not turn your back to your opponent? What is turning your back? I'll give you an example. I just turn my back to you. And if I turn my back to you for that long in a fight, you could do whatever the heck you wanted to. But let's take a look at some spinning kicks or turning kicks. And I want you to be really, really honest with yourself. Am I turning the back? Especially if you're spotting while you're spinning. My goodness. The only way you're going to run into trouble is if you are confused about the range at which you should be throwing those kicks and if you're not setting them up. A lot of people look at spinning kicks and they're like, cool, those are neat. I saw those in all the 1990s karate movies that came out of Hollywood. I want to do those. They look fun. and they will spam high spinning kicks, round kicks, hook kicks, tornado kicks, whatever, and they'll never land one because they don't know how. They don't understand the range, and they don't understand the setups. To get good at spinning kicks, you got to be good at boxing, so it's great that your gym has a high emphasis on Western boxing. And that confuses a lot of people if they don't understand both kicking and boxing. But yeah, to be a good kickboxer, you got to be good at boxing too. You've got to understand how to use your boxing to set up those kicks. And understand the range of boxing and the range of head kicks. It's different. And if you can't appreciate that, you'll never land one. And you might as well be turning your back. But if we don't train these things, you're never going to learn. For the longest time, everybody who watched the UFC, the early UFC, where it was just wrestlers and jiu-jitsu guys winning, dominating the sport with very few exceptions like Maurice Smith. Very, very few exceptions. Everybody said spinning kicks will not work. They will never work in this sport. They will be the lowest percentage thing. And people believed that for a very long time until people who had practiced these techniques within the context of mixed martial arts started doing them. We cannot see past our ability to suspend our disbelief. A suspension of disbelief, we generally associate that with movies, right? You're watching a fantasy movie, right? Where magic happens, where things happen that could not happen in real life. And there's some guy in the audience rolling his eyes. Ah, yeah, right. Like that could ever happen. And then people are like, shut up, man, it's just a movie. They're mad at that guy because he can't suspend his disbelief for a moment and just enjoy the movie like they do. But for an act of faith, like developing a system of spinning kicks, setting up spinning kicks with your boxing, and understanding how that figures into a sport like mixed martial arts, where we have to account for grappling as well simultaneously at all times, it's a bit of a leap of faith when you've never seen anybody do it before. But people have done it before, and they've done it really well, and they've done it a lot. A lot. I do it a lot. I do it all the time. I was doing it before it was cool. Anyway. We got a lot of background chatter today. My kids and my wife are at home. Shanghai is on lockdown right now. Man, I don't even remember how long we've been on lockdown. It was supposed to be 5 days, but it turned out to be more than 5 days because of whatever complications. So, indefinite lockdown. Got my kids running around the house. So if you're wondering about the background noise, that's what it is. Anyway, we're talking about suspending disbelief about moves you've never seen in a fight. Except you have. And if you haven't seen them, you haven't been paying attention. Now, it's great that you're training on your own, and it's also great that you are respecting your coaches, and hopefully the two of you can find a middle ground. I have a student, Xiao, you've probably seen him, Liu Xiao. Very interesting fellow. He loves those spinning kicks, man. He loves those Taekwondo and karate style kicks, the tornado kick, the hook kick, and he's pretty good at them. And he had a very similar experience to you. He went to a Muay Thai gym where they basically told him, don't do any of that. Don't do all these things you're good at. Don't learn how to integrate these things into your game. Just do the very simple, bare bones stuff that we do. Why not both? If you got the time, why not both? It's not rocket science. I'm constantly asked questions about how do I get better at different skill sets if they don't offer that specific skill set in my gym. For example, I go to a jiu-jitsu gym and I want to get better at MMA, but there's no MMA class. What do? Well, do you have a heavy bag at your jiu-jitsu gym? A lot of gyms do. Some don't, but a lot of them do. If that's the case, spend a little bit of time after class hitting the heavy bag. And if not, do some shadow boxing. And bring some MMA gloves once in a while and stick around after class if you are permitted to do so. And do some light sparring with strikes with your jiu-jitsu friends. And you will all improve because of it. It's good stuff. And as soon as we understand that, we can get past 1993, where people thought that it was impossible to use spinning kicks in a fight. You can do what you're good at. Next question.